I managed to get the drive shafts out. One remark on the right hand side drive shaft is that it's got a bearing along with a support bolted to the engine, and there are two bolts from this side holding the bearing in place and two nuts on this end. I'll try to show you in a minute. And then it slides right out both sides. I got the Haynes manual out. You need to remove the gear linkage over here. Wait, I'm gonna put it over there. So this bit right here, you need to pull it off. It's a ball joint. And there is another one somewhere in the back, hard to spot. And then you need to remove the cables from the brackets. It's the white bit over there, and there should be another one somewhere, the black one over there. So you need to pull back on the aft section of the plastic, and then you can pop them out. And next up is removing our starter motor. So to remove the starter motor, you need to disconnect all of the wiring. As you can see over there. Don't forget, you have to do this with the battery already disconnected. And there is one bolt over there. There's another one on that side, but I can't get a shot of it. And there's also one on top of the gearbox from the other side going in. So you also need to undo that one. So our starter is out. Like I said, there were two like this on from the starter to the gearbox. One was underneath here somewhere along this line, and they were Allen size, so hexagon 6 with 6 corners anyway. And there was also a size 13 nut holding this wiring gutter attached to the starter motor. Next up is removing our subframe, or pieces of our subframe. So, like I said before, this crossmember and this crossmember, you need to undo this bolt and one on top as well. I don't think there are any others. And we're going to take away the inner cowl to facilitate the easy removal of our gearbox, or as easy as possible anyways. So to remove the cowl, got that out of the way. Next up is our crossmember. Again, it's those sockets. It's the sockets with the star-like pattern. And this nut over here, bolt over here, is a... yeah, that's the one. An E16. if you ever need it to get one, E16 is the size. So undo it, or try to undo it at least. It might be easier if you just took the front bumper off, but I didn't want to. I felt some give. Yeah. These are pretty tight. So that's that. So it's out. Then that's a very big size. I'm guessing it's 21 again. Where is it? No, it's not a 21. Another 20. 19 perhaps? No, it's like on the 19. 18, size 18. So that's tight, so I need to pull it to loosen it. So the entire thing seems to be pulling down on itself. I'm just going to check for the other bits I needed to loosen up. That's one over here, one over here, here. That's size, I think it's 13. If I can find my wrench. Size 13. Does it fit? Yes. It's tight. Oops. So undo them. Like I said before, this is normally a bumper off job because they take the bumper off, they take the cross members off, they remove the radiator. But I'm not going to bother at this time. I will try without removing the bumper and all the other stuff. If that doesn't work, well, I think I have no other choice then. This looks to me as if loose, so put the two bolts aside for a moment. Continue with the large one. This one is loose enough. And this one should be okay. I see the problem. So I cannot slide this one out far enough, I guess. Nope. And this is pushing against the bumper. Yeah, I see. So I ended up loosening up the front bumper by removing the 4 torque screws on the top. Oh, there. 2 size 10 bolts, one over there and one over there on the bottom, and 2 size 10 bolt and nuts over here behind the quarter panel. Next up, I completely removed the cross member, the metal one over there, and this allowed me to have more wiggle room with the plastic one if I lifted the bumper a little bit, and I managed to get this cross member out. So the next thing to do is loosening up the clutch slave cylinder, and after that we're pretty much ready to jack up the engine assembly. I'm gonna put an axle stand underneath the engine, or try to shim it out with some wood, and then it's time to remove the gearbox mount over here and the lower engine mount underneath, and that's the next update. So to remove the clutch slave cylinder, which is located over there, it's just 2 bolts. I don't know if it's, yeah, you can see them just about. Come on, focus, yeah, that's one, and the other one is underneath. So there's number 1 and there's number 2. Leave it attached and just toss it aside a little. As you can see, it's clamped over here. That's the line that goes over there, and there's another one. This is mounted to the gearbox, so we have to make sure to disconnect it out of there. Small tip: when performing this gearbox removal on a car, make sure you have a jack that will be able to reach your gearbox. Okay, so I'll be spending some time putting those axle stands one hole lower point, and hopefully my jack will be able to reach the transmission then. I did put them up that high because it was easy to get under here, and I wanted as much room to get the gearbox out, because like I said before, normally it has to come out this way, and I wanted to go out that way to make my life easier. Note to self: get a real man's jack. So another little update. I loosened the upper mount and I completely removed the lower engine mount. It used to be there somewhere. I taken the weight a little bit of the engine with the jack wooden block, and I supported the engine on a little jack stand. Next is taking out all of the bolts. I loosened this nut over here. First the nut, and then you can take out the bolt. And I'm going to do the rest now. So I guess I got everything out. These are the bolts, 4 on the bottom half of the engine facing that direction, along with this one which was facing the other direction. You need to untighten the nut and then you can turn out the stud. 1 regular bolt on the top, with beside it again one like this. They were really hard to reach. The regular bolt was somewhere underneath this hose, and the other one was actually underneath the thermostat housing, and I needed to unbolt the rail with the loom and another little torque screw with which would hold this tubing in place, which is attached to the thermostat housing as well. Another thing I had to loosen up was again part of the loom rail, guiding rail, and that was a a size 13 right beside the stud we want to get out. Also bear in mind, one of the regular bolts which was facing that direction was way up above the bearing for the right hand side drive shaft. So I think the time has come to get this thing out. So let's try this. I'm fairly confident the height of the jack is okay. Just use a pry bar and pry the gearbox back so it frees its dowel pins. Okay, it's about right. I'm going to reposition myself. Right now it's about half a centimeter separated from the engine, so I hope I have the center of gravity fairly well. Otherwise this is the gearbox will tumble over, and chances are very likely for it to happen, so watch the fingers. And we need to jiggle it around while we pull it back. I don't think it's coming along. Need to check it. This is harder than I thought. And if I would trust my jack a bit more, or if you something you could do is, for instance, tie your gearbox to your jack. I'm a little bit crooked right now, so it seems. That's straight again. I would have liked the car to be higher, but like I said before, it was quite impossible. So I think I'm out. I'm not sure. Still caught on something. I can feel it, but I don't know what. So I've cleared the clutch with the input shaft, which is great. I'm still snagging on something. I don't know what it is. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I can afford to make a little mistake, but I don't hope I make any costly mistakes. And I don't like the position of my head either, I know.